Alright, what is up traders? Hope everybody's doing well. Recording this for the second time because I didn't have my mic on for the first one. So, going over today's price action. Today's price action was just like this whole entire week's price action, absolute dog shit. So I'm going to be going over kind of a review on this entire day. I did end up taking two trades, one break even and one small, very minor loss. The main takeaway from this video is kind of showing you guys how I manage risk, especially on days like this. So let's get straight into it. This is the first macro right here, 9:45. My bias was still short even after this big move that you guys saw in the morning, simply because I still thought that there was still unfinished business lower. So we had the sell side INQ that wasn't swept. It was swept on ES. Yes, we had an SMT, but we were so close to the May 18th new week opening May 11th or 18th was this? 11th. May 11th new week opening gap right here, high for ES. So I thought that ES was going to at least come down and sweep it, which in return would mean that NQ would probably come down and sweep this sell side. So that was kind of my bias still coming into the day, was still short. So wanted to see some sort of manipulation, which we did get here. Swept this buy side, and then from there I want to see a short to these lows. Now I was looking for a displacement, so we do close below the 930 value gap, looking for a displacement. That was a thing that I was looking for that we didn't get, and that's why I didn't end up taking this trade, which if I did, it would have been a loser. So waiting for a displacement away from this 930 fair value gap to show strength, to indicate strength. And unless I see that, I'm not entering. So you see here how we're closing below it, but we're just not getting a displacement, not showing strength away from the 930 value gap, and then we end up making closing above it in a bit. So here I see this SMT. I'm still noting it out because the idea is still in my mind that we're going to drop lower, and still trying to see that pan out with an inefficiency, a gap, a SIBI, a sell side imbalance, buy side inefficiency away from the 930 fair value gap, which we don't get. So here we come back to push lower, close below it, and then we still don't get no inefficiency below it. Still watching. I notice another SMT where ES fails to make a new high and Q does make a new high. I love how we tap into this 15-minute inefficiency right here on the higher time frame. It looks very beautiful for me on the higher time frames for it to drop from here. Looks very nice. I'm just waiting to see that confirmation on the 1 minute time frame, the lower time frame, for me to enter shorts, right? Which we don't get. That's why this trade I never end up taking. And it's just, I keep on watching. I notice this SMT, possible SMT, right? Still waiting for that displacement lower, which we still don't get. So, moving it further, and here we're approaching at a macro. Trying to see if I can get a displacement, never end up getting it, and then we just make a new high. Macro is going to end in like 2 minutes, so this is where I wrap it up and then come back for the second macro. So here, wrap it up, macro is done, I come back for the second macro, right? So we come back, second macro. We're still kind of in that range of where we were previously, right? Still in the nice area, in a nice area. We've probably come back to 50% of this, move down, macro hits. I'm looking for a reason to enter shorts. In a bit, you'll see this very obvious SMT, right? So ES makes a new high and Q fails to do so. I marked out in a bit. So let's wait, where did I mark it out? Right, so I'll mark it out right here. SMT, I'm waiting for a displacement lower. So we do end up getting it right here, and I do end up taking the trade. Now you'll see me, I don't wait for us to re-tap into the fair value gap to enter, because I'm treating this as a breakaway gap, right? We have this block of consolidation, and then this is the first inefficiency away from it, breaking structure. So I'm treating it as a breakaway gap, and all I'm doing is just trying to get a close proximity entry to it, right? That's all. Putting my stop loss above the fair value gap. So And then my targets are all these lows lower. So breakaway gap right here, that's how I'm treating it. Not really demanding price to really tap into it for me to enter my position, right? So my full TP is at these lows, right? Which never ends up being tagged. Let me speed this up. So here still nothing really major for me to do anything. In a second, like if this was a normal day, this would be an A plus setup. This is beautiful. SMT, higher time frame liquidity target. We're in a retracement of a higher time frame fair value gap, the 15-minute, the 1 hour, the 4 hour, the 1 hour, and we're just getting pushes lower, right? At least this sell side would be tagged into on either ES or NQ, but that's on a normal day. And again, this week was just absolute dog shit. So that's why today especially, I'm very kind of heavy on limiting my risk as soon as I get the opportunity. So you'll see here in a bit, we tap on ES, we tap the 930 for value gap, and that's when I move my stop loss to break even immediately on NQ, right? Because again, we tapped into it on NQ on ES. We could see a reaction from it. Plus, number two, today's price action in this week in general is just already dog shit. So I'm not looking to be in a consolidation trade like this, for example, right? So here in a bit, we tap into the 930 value gap on ES, and this is where I move to break even immediately. And you'll see me kind of type it out. Yeah, moving to break even because ES tapped into it. Cool. May have a reaction. All right. So here we do end up having a reaction. I do end up getting stopped out. Now the idea is still valid for me. I'm just waiting for extra confirmation now for me to re-enter again into the same entry or the same trade. So at this point, we've swept some 1 minute lows, right? Let me extend it. All right, so at this point, all we've done is we've come down. We haven't tapped into this breakaway gap, but we've swept some 1 minute lows. So based off this, and especially with today's price action, I'm not gonna just enter shorts now as soon as we tap into this fair value gap, because price could easily, especially because we tapped into the 930 fair value gap, we could easily come up and inverse this breakaway gap and then continue higher, right? So especially with today's price action, plus we've tapped into the 930 value gap and we've swept some 1 minute lows, I want more confirmation if we come back and tap into this breakaway gap for me to enter, right? So that's why you don't see me enter right there and I enter later. So and by the way, I think we don't even tap it. Yeah, so we tap it on ES, but we don't tap it on NQ. So that's an SMT. So it's a nice confirmation, right? Very nice, like that. And we do have a breakout structure on the 1 minute with an inefficiency, right? Here I'm just marking out where my stop loss would be. And we get the inefficiency, and then here you'll see me, I don't enter on NQ tapping into the fair value gap because, let me show you. So ES ends up tapping into that fair value gap. In a second. Right, so ES tapped, NQ didn't, right? Why did I wait? Why did I not wait for NQ to tap into the fair value gap? Well, just like how ES here tapped into the inefficiency and NQ didn't, we very much could have another SMT here where ES taps into the fair value gap and NQ doesn't. So just because of these two ticks, or these couple ticks, I'm not going to be too picky and risk a whole trade to move without me just because I want to get an entry on this fair value gap. Well, it could very much be an SMT just like this here, right? So that's why you see me enter right then and there. And as long as the entry makes sense, like if we were here on ES, and on NQ we were down here, I'm obviously not going to enter because it's just the risk it wouldn't make sense. But we're pretty much at the same area, like this is not much difference. But ES has tapped into inefficiency, so I'm not going to risk a trade to go without me just because of this. So that's why I'm entering without the inefficiency being tapped into, right? Because I don't want to have that risk right now. Just like how on the first trade I entered, well, there are two different scenarios. The first trade I didn't wait for the tap of the value gap because it was a breakaway gap, but this one because there might be a potential SMT, right? So for an extra couple of ticks, I'm not going to be too picky. I'm just going to enter there, and then my stop loss is above midpoint for now, and then I do end up moving it or trailing it. So moving. So it looks pretty nice here, right? We make a new low. Now, if this was normal price action, it was good, it would be just absolutely melting from here. But because today was not the best, so here, as soon as we make a new low and we tap into the 930 value up on NQ, I move my stop loss to this high, right, to structure, because number one, we've tapped into the 930 value up on NQ now, and we could anticipate a reaction. Number two is we swept on NQ, we didn't on ES, so this is a potential SMT. We might have a reaction and price can continue higher, which I think did happen. And we did end up pushing higher from here. Number three is this week's price action, or this day's price action. So you got to be extra cautious. So that's why as soon as we tap into this inefficiency, if this was a normal day, it would be dumping. But as soon as we tap into this inefficiency, I'm moving to structure. I don't want to be in this any longer if we get that chalk price action. You see here, I'm moving to break even, and I'm keeping my risk like that. And I do end up getting stopped out right there, right? So I'm marking potential SMT here, especially after we've swept that low, tapped into the 930 value gap. I'm not looking to be in this trade. So possible SMT, have to minimize risk, right? And then I do end up getting stopped out. So I minimize my risk to like $82, and I do end up getting stopped out here, which I'm glad that I did, right? Because this ended up making a new high, and yeah, so that was it. Not the easiest price action for sure this week. I saw a lot of people blow accounts, and that is to be expected, especially on these weeks from not so experienced traders. For me, this week I was just extra cautious, really focusing on trailing stop loss, minimizing risk, just like I showed you guys today. So that the main takeaway was just showing you guys how I operate my trades during choppy and disgusting price action like this. So that's going to be it. Hope you guys found this insightful. If you want more pre and post session analysis just like this, I post my free analysis for NASDAQ every single day, pre-session open, pre-market open on my free Discord for free. So if you want to join in and watch that, feel free to do so. I do also have my private one-on-one mentorship. So if you're interested in that, link for the calendar to book your call with me is going to be in the description down below. All right, this is going to be it. And until next time, guys, stay safe and happy trading.